tonight, imagine that the last light has drained from a winter sky somewhere in northern Europe. The year is around 1300, though no one in the village would describe the evening with that kind of neat historical label. To the people inside the low timber houses, this is simply another cold night. The fields are dark. The road has disappeared into mud and shadow. Smoke leans from the roofs, then settles close to the ground because the air is heavy and still. Somewhere beyond the houses, a church bell marks the end of the working day. Dogs answer it. A child begins to cry. A door closes. One by one, the small pools of firelight shrink behind wooden shutters. You have spent the day imagining that medieval sleep must have been wonderfully natural. No glowing screens, no late emails, no traffic outside the bedroom window. Surely, without electricity, everyone simply followed the sun, slept deeply, and woke refreshed. The first surprise is that there was no single medieval way to sleep. Europe stretched across different climates, languages, laws, religions, and landscapes. A fishing family on the coast of Norway did not organize winter nights like a household in southern Italy. A monk in a Benedictine abbey did not sleep like a merchant in Paris. A wealthy widow with several chambers did not sleep like a harvest laborer in a cottage with one heated room. Even two neighbors might have very different nights depending on age, health, work, wealth, and the number of people who needed space near the fire. The second surprise is that sleep was rarely treated as a private activity. It belonged to the household, the season, the church calendar, the demands of work, and the dangers of darkness. A modern bedroom is often imagined as a personal refuge. In the medieval world, the sleeping place was more often part of a living system. People slept where warmth, safety, duty, and available space allowed them to sleep. They might share a room with relatives, servants, guests, or animals kept in an adjoining section of the building. They might wake for prayer, to feed an infant, to check a fire, to help a sick neighbor, or to listen when a strange sound came from the yard. The night did not begin at a fixed hour. Mechanical clocks were rare for much of the Middle Ages, and even after public clocks began appearing in towns, most people still organized time through light, bells, meals, and familiar routines. Sunset mattered. So did the season. A summer evening could remain useful for work long after supper. A winter evening might close around the household before many modern people would consider the day finished. This is where one of the most famous claims about pre-modern sleep enters the story. You may have heard that everyone in the Middle Ages slept in two neat blocks. First, sleep began soon after dark. Then people woke around midnight for a calm interval of prayer, conversation, work, or intimacy. After that came second sleep, which lasted until morning. There is real historical evidence for expressions such as first sleep and second sleep. Later, European sources mention them clearly, and some medieval texts contain language that may point in the same direction. Historian Roger Ekirch has argued that divided sleep was widespread before modern artificial lighting. Other scholars have questioned how common, regular, or universal that pattern truly was. They point out that evidence is uneven, especially when moving backward from the early modern period into the Middle Ages. The surviving words do not always prove that an entire population followed the same schedule every night. So the safest conclusion is not that medieval people all obeyed a perfect two-sleep timetable. It is that nighttime waking was ordinary enough to require little panic. Some people probably did experience a long first sleep, a quiet waking period, and a second sleep. Others slept continuously when exhaustion allowed. Some woke repeatedly because of cold, noise, pain, children, animals, work, or prayer. Medieval sleep was flexible because medieval life demanded flexibility. You step inside the cottage. The door opens directly into the main room. There is no hallway, There is no thermostat. The fire has done its best all day, but much of the heat has escaped through the roof and walls. The air smells of smoke, wool, stored food, damp earth, and human bodies. None of this strikes the family as unusual. Smell is part of the house, just as the creak of timber and the movement of people are part of it. The bed is not yet ready. Bedding must be shaken, blankets arranged, and the fire checked. A clay lamp may be lit with oil or animal fat, but fuel costs money, and light is not wasted casually. Rushlights, candles, and small lamps can extend the evening, yet they cannot make the room bright in the modern sense. Shadows remain thick. Every flame carries a risk. An unattended light can turn a wooden house, a thatched roof, and a lifetime of stored possessions into a fire before anyone has time to carry water. Darkness, therefore, encourages people toward bed, but it does not command them instantly. There are clothes to mend, tools to inspect, prayers to say, and stories to tell. Winter creates long indoor hours. Families may spin thread, twist cord, repair nets, carve small objects, or talk beside the hearth. The work is quieter than daytime labor, but it is still work. A household that depends on handmade clothing cannot afford to regard every dark hour as leisure. Eventually, the flame is lowered. The outer door is secured, as well as the building allows. A wooden bar may be set in place. Valuable tools and food are kept close. The dog settles near the entrance, not as a charming decoration, but as an alarm that can smell and hear far better than anyone else in the room. Now the household prepares for sleep, not the clean, silent, solitary sleep sold by modern advertisements. This sleep will be communal, seasonal, interrupted, and deeply practical. It will also be more human than the caricature of a filthy population collapsing onto straw. Medieval people wanted warmth, softness, safety, and rest just as much as you do. They simply had to create those comforts from very different materials, inside a world where the night was never entirely under human control. The phrase medieval bed can summon an image of a rotting sack filled with sharp straw, placed directly on a wet floor and occupied by a family of insects with excellent legal rights. Some people certainly slept on rough pallets. Poverty has always produced uncomfortable nights. Yet the reality was more varied, and surviving records show that bedding could be one of the most valuable parts of a household. A poor laborer might sleep on a layer of straw, bracken, rushes, leaves, or dried plants arranged on the floor or packed into a cloth cover. These materials provided insulation from cold ground. They also needed attention. Fresh filling was more comfortable than old filling, and households could replace or air it when supplies allowed. The idea that everyone simply kept the same decomposing straw forever is more comic than historical. People understood that bedding became dirty, damp, and infested. Understanding a problem did not always mean having the time or resources to solve it, but neglect was not the same as ignorance. A step above the simplest pallet was a mattress stuffed with chaff, wool, flock, hair, or feathers. The filling depended on local resources and wealth. Wool offered warmth. Feathers offered softness and status. A good feather bed could cost enough to appear prominently in wills and household inventories. People inherited beds because a bed was not merely a frame. The word could describe a whole collection of valuable objects, including mattress, sheets, blankets, coverlets, curtains, cushions, and sometimes the wooden structure itself. For a prosperous urban family, the bed might be the most impressive piece of furniture in the room. It could stand on a carved frame raised above the floor. Curtains enclosed it, reducing drafts and creating a pocket of warmer air. The canopy was not only decorative, it helped protect sleepers from falling dust, insects, and whatever drifted from the roof beams. Bright textiles displayed wealth. A visitor seeing a richly furnished bed understood immediately that the household possessed money, connections, and a strong desire to make sure everyone noticed. Even among the elite, comfort required labor. Bedding had to be aired, brushed, shaken, repaired, and protected from damp. Sheets had to be washed. Mattresses could be turned or restuffed. Servants spent time maintaining the elaborate sleep environment that noble owners later described as effortless luxury. A soft bed was not a miracle. It was the visible result of land, money, cloth production, domestic work, and often the labor of people whose own beds were far less comfortable. What did people wear in bed? The answer changes by period, region, class, and circumstance. The popular claim that medieval people always slept in their daytime clothing is too broad. Some certainly did, especially when traveling during emergencies, in cold conditions, or when bedding was limited. Others removed outer garments and slept in linen underclothes. Some images and texts suggest naked sleeping, particularly among people with access to sheets and enclosed beds. Modesty did not operate exactly as it does today, and a warm bed shared with a spouse did not require everyone to remain wrapped in layers of damp wool. Specialized sleepwear became more visible over time, but the long white nightshirt familiar from later illustrations should not be projected carelessly across the entire medieval millennium. The same caution applies to the pointed nightcap. Head coverings were common and useful. Linen caps, coifs, kerchiefs, hoods, and other forms of cloth could keep hair controlled and provide warmth. But the iconic floppy cap with a long point belongs more strongly to later visual tradition than to the everyday wardrobe of every medieval sleeper. There is also a popular claim that people slept upright because they feared that lying flat resembled death, or because physicians believed horizontal sleep would drown the brain in phlegm. Medieval medical writers did care about posture. They often recommended lying on one side, changing sides during the night, or raising the head for certain illnesses. People with breathing problems, digestive discomfort, pregnancy, injury, or old age may have preferred support from cushions. Elite beds were sometimes piled with bolsters, yet there is no good reason to imagine most people spending every night nearly seated to avoid confusing the angel of death. Beds were often shorter than modern beds for many reasons, including human height, room size, posture, and the fact that people could sleep curled or supported by pillows. The dramatic universal rule is another myth built from scattered evidence. The floor itself mattered. In a cottage, sleeping places might be near the hearth, but not so close that sparks could reach the bedding. In a hall, servants could sleep on mats, benches, chests, or temporary pallets that disappeared during the day. Furniture had to serve several purposes because space was expensive. A bench became a bed, a chest became a raised platform, cloaks became blankets, a folded garment became a pillow. This reuse may sound miserable, but it also reveals a household skilled at adaptation. Medieval people did not walk into a shop and purchase a complete bedroom set. They built comfort from available objects. A traveler rolled in a cloak. A shepherd slept beneath wool. A sailor found a corner among ropes and cargo. A mother arranged blankets around an infant. A sick person received the warmest place and the best covering the family could spare. Warmth was often more important than softness. A perfectly cushioned mattress offered little help if the room became dangerously cold. Curtains, body heat, wool blankets, fur coverings, shutters, and the strategic placement of beds all mattered. Wealthy households might use heated stones, warming pans, or containers of hot material, though each introduced a risk of burns or fire. Poor households relied more heavily on the hearth, clothing, shared bedding, and the thermal advantage of not sleeping alone. This brings you to the feature of medieval sleep that may feel most foreign. The bed was often social space. It could hold a married couple, siblings, children, guests, servants, or travelers. Sharing did not always mean crowding an entire family onto one mattress. It meant that sleeping arrangements were negotiated around hierarchy, gender, age, safety, and available space. In a prosperous home, the master and mistress might have a bed while servants slept nearby or in adjacent rooms. Children could share with siblings or caregivers. A guest of honor might receive the best bed, forcing the household to reorganize itself for the night. In a poor home, several people might share one sleeping surface because warmth and necessity outweighed any modern wish for solitude. People knew that bed sharing required rules. Position mattered. Clothing and blankets mattered. Trust mattered. Travelers guarded purses. Hosts considered reputation. Men and women were not mixed carelessly in every inn, despite entertaining stories suggesting total chaos. Inns varied enormously. Some had private chambers. Some had shared rooms. Some offered beds to several strangers. Some offered only floor space or a place near the stable. The price decided much, and so did the quality of the establishment. A bed shared with a stranger could be uncomfortable and risky, but it was often safer than sleeping outdoors. Roads carried thieves. Weather changed. Wolves were feared in some regions, though people were often more dangerous. The inn provided walls, fire, witnesses, food, and a chance to hear news. Privacy was sacrificed in exchange for protection. The modern assumption is that intimacy requires an empty room. Medieval households prove that people have always found moments of privacy within crowded lives. Curtains could close. Children slept. Servants understood when not to notice. Social conventions created invisible boundaries, even when architecture did not. Privacy existed, but it was often temporary and negotiated rather than built permanently into the house. As you settle onto the mattress, you become aware of every other body nearby. Someone breathes through a blocked nose. Someone whispers a final prayer. A child shifts beneath a blanket. The dog scratches once, circles, and lies down. The room is not silent, and no one expects it to be. Sleep begins not when the world becomes quiet, but when the household has become quiet enough. The presence of animals in medieval homes is often described with the enthusiasm of someone imagining a goat tucked politely beneath every blanket. Domestic animals did live close to people, especially in rural households. In some buildings, humans and livestock occupied different sections under the same roof. This arrangement preserved valuable animals, protected them from theft and weather, and allowed some warmth to move through the structure. Chickens wandered where chickens found opportunity, which was almost everywhere. Dogs slept near doors or hearths. Cats moved according to laws known only to cats. But living under one roof did not mean that every cow slept beside the family bed. Cattle, horses, pigs, and sheep produced waste, noise, moisture, and danger. Households with the space to separate them usually had strong practical reasons to do so. Archaeology reveals many kinds of rural buildings, from byre houses with animal and human zones to homes with detached structures. The exact arrangement depended on region, wealth, farming practice, and climate. A small dog might sleep on a bed, especially in an elite household. Lapdogs appear in art and literature as companions, status symbols, and recipients of affection. A large working dog might lie near the threshold. Cats helped control rodents, though they could also become objects of suspicion in certain stories. Animals were not merely heaters. They were workers, guards, food producers, property, companions, and occasionally thieves of bedding. The shared room created a particular soundscape. Hooves shifted, harness rings moved, A hen complained. A dog barked at a scent outside. None of these noises required a dramatic awakening unless they changed from the expected pattern. People learn the sounds of their environment. A miller sleeps through the mill. A sailor sleeps near creaking timber. A village family sleeps through ordinary animal movement, but wakes when the dog growls. In a way, it does not growl during dreams. The same ability applied to bells. Church bells were among the most powerful technologies of communal time. They announced worship, funerals, danger, fire, meetings, and the passage of important hours. In towns, bells could regulate markets and curfews. Near monasteries, night offices brought sound into the darkness. To modern ears, the tolling may seem guaranteed to destroy sleep. To medieval residents, familiar bells became information. A bell at the expected time reassured. A bell rung urgently or out of sequence could pull an entire neighborhood from bed. Monastic communities organized sleep more deliberately than most households. The rule of Saint Benedict, written in late antiquity and deeply influential during the Middle Ages, divided the year according to prayer, work, reading, meals, and rest. The timing of the night office changed with the seasons. Winter darkness allowed a longer interval before the monks rose for vigils. Summer nights were shorter, and the schedule adjusted. It is tempting to picture every monk stumbling from a plank at exactly 2 in the morning for the entire year. Medieval time was not that uniform. The night office depended on daylight, local custom, the religious order, and the period. Monastic reform movements sometimes imposed stricter practices. Other houses adapted rules to climate, health, age, and work. The ideal written in a rule was not always the life experienced in every dormitory. Still, the interruption was real. A bell or signal woke the community. Monks rose, gathered in church, and chanted psalms in darkness or limited light. The body learned the pattern through repetition. Some monks returned to sleep afterward. Others moved into reading or prayer, depending on the hour and season. Records of discipline show that drowsiness was a familiar problem. Medieval monks were not spiritual machines. They nodded, missed cues, arrived late, or struggled to remain awake, just as tired people do now. Dormitories also varied. Early and high medieval monasteries often favored communal sleeping under supervision. The rule of Saint Benedict instructed monks to sleep clothed, with a light burning, arranged by order rather than age alone, and with younger members placed among elders. These rules served readiness, discipline, modesty, and protection. They also reveal anxiety about behavior during the night. Communal sleep made conduct visible. Over time, some monastic communities created smaller compartments or individual cells. Certain orders valued solitude. Senior officials might have separate rooms. Sick monks slept in an infirmary. Guests stayed in designated spaces. No monastery remained frozen in one architectural plan for 1,000 years. The bed itself could be modest without being deliberately cruel. Religious writers praised restraint and warned against luxury, but sleep was necessary for prayer and labor. A monk too exhausted to chant, study, or work was not useful. Rules sometimes allowed better bedding for illness or age. The tension remained constant. Comfort restored the body, yet excessive comfort might appear spiritually dangerous. A soft bed could become a symbol of indulgence, even when the person condemning it quietly preferred not to sleep on stone. Nuns followed structured schedules as well, but female religious houses had their own social and architectural realities. Noble families could endow convents richly. Other communities struggled financially. Some nuns lived in relative comfort compared with poor rural women. Others endured cold, hunger, illness, and crowded dormitories. The idea of one universal monastic bed is as misleading as the idea of one universal medieval woman. Prayer framed the night outside monasteries too. Compline, the final office of the day, shaped religious culture even for lay people who never attended it regularly. Bedtime prayers asked for protection through darkness, forgiveness of sin, and safe waking. The fear of dying during sleep was not an irrational obsession invented by people who thought 30 was ancient. Sudden death happened. Infection, childbirth, accident, violence, and illness could end a life quickly. Preparing the soul before sleep fit a world where death was both religiously significant and visibly present. Yet, bedtime prayer could also be peaceful. A parent teaching a child familiar words created routine. Repetition lowered the voice and slowed the household. The same psalms returned night after night. A prayer to Christ, Mary, an angel, or a local saint could provide comfort when the room was cold and the darkness felt immense. People did not necessarily spend every night trembling about demons. Medieval religion contained fear, but also trust, habit, hope, and intimacy. A small cross near the bed, a blessed object, or a remembered prayer could make the sleeping space feel protected. The modern joke turns these practices into spiritual insurance purchased by terrified peasants. The human reality was richer. People used belief to place a boundary around the part of life they could not control. Darkness itself carried danger. Roads became harder to travel. Urban gates closed. Curfews restricted movement. Watchmen patrolled streets. Fires were covered or controlled, which is one origin often linked to the word curfew, from the instruction to cover the fire. The purpose was not to order everyone instantly into bed. It was to reduce flame, disorder, and unauthorized movement during hours when visibility and policing were limited. A person outdoors after curfew might have a legitimate reason. Midwives, priests, physicians, messengers, servants, travelers, and guards moved at night. So did thieves, lovers, drunkards, and people who preferred not to explain themselves. Town regulations attempted to separate necessary movement from suspicious movement, with imperfect results. Inside the house, sleep carried the relief of enclosure. The barred door, nearby bodies, familiar prayers, and banked fire formed a small island against the dark. For many people, sleeping alone was not suspicious in itself, but it was uncommon because space and security favored company. Solitude could belong to the wealthy, the religious recluse, the guard on duty, the shepherd in the field, the widow living independently, or the person whose circumstances had left no one else nearby. Alone or crowded, the sleeper entered a night filled with sound. The question was not whether the world would become silent, it was whether the sounds would remain familiar enough for the body to let go. The medieval city offered no promise of silence. A town might grow quiet compared with its market at noon, but night rearranged noise rather than abolishing it. Bakers began work early. Brewers watched fires and vats. Wagons moved when regulations allowed. Watchmen called out. Doors opened for late arrivals. Water flowed through gutters. Dogs defended invisible borders with great confidence. Somewhere, someone had chosen darkness as the correct time to sing. Urban homes often pressed close together. Timber walls and thin partitions carried sound. An argument in the next room became a shared event. A crying infant woke several households. Workshops occupied ground floors with living spaces above. Smells of tanning, cooking, smoke, animals, and waste lingered after business stopped. Fire remained the greatest urban fear. A spark could move from roof to roof before people formed a bucket line. Night watch systems therefore paid close attention to flame. Hearths were banked, candles were extinguished. Regulations limited dangerous work. The need for safety competed with the need for heat, and winter offered no perfect solution. The countryside was quieter in one sense and louder in another. Wind moved through thatch. Rain struck the roof. Trees creaked. Animals called from fields and woods. The absence of artificial light made the moon, clouds, and stars practical parts of night. A bright moon allowed travel and work that darkness would otherwise prevent. A storm could trap everyone inside. People adjusted bedtimes to labor. During harvest, work might continue until light failed, followed by food and immediate exhaustion. During winter, long nights created more time indoors, but not always more sleep. Textile work, tool repair, food preparation, storytelling, and religious observance filled the hours. In summer, short nights could reduce sleep, especially when agricultural work began early. Some people rested during the day when heat, custom, or workload allowed, particularly in southern regions. The universal modern block of one nighttime sleep was no more natural to every medieval worker than the universal medieval first and second sleep. Care work fractured sleep in every century. Infants fed at night. Sick children needed watching. Elderly relatives coughed, called out, or required help. Women recovering from childbirth slept when pain and responsibility allowed. A household nursing fever could remain awake for nights. No chronicler needed to invent insomnia. It arrived through love, fear, and obligation. The medical language used to explain poor sleep came from several traditions. In Latin Christian Europe, learned physicians inherited ideas from Greek and Roman writers, especially Hippocrates, Galen, and later commentators. Through translation, contact, and scholarship, medical knowledge from the Islamic world became central to European medicine. Writers such as Avicenna discussed sleep as an active bodily process connected with digestion, temperature, the brain, and the balance of bodily qualities. Medieval medicine often described sleep as warm inward movement. During sleep, natural heat was thought to withdraw toward the body's center and assist digestion. Too little sleep could dry, weaken, or disturb the body. Too much could produce heaviness, sluggishness, or excess moisture. The ideal depended on age, season, temperament, food, illness, and occupation. A young laborer and an elderly scholar were not expected to need exactly the same rest. Physicians offered advice that sounds both strange and familiar. Avoid an enormous meal immediately before bed. Do not lie down while emotionally agitated. Keep the sleeping room from becoming excessively hot, cold, smoky, or foul. Position the head comfortably. Sleep first on one side, then turn. Use gentle music, quiet conversation, bathing, or pleasant scents when appropriate. These recommendations sat beside humoral theories that modern medicine rejects, yet they reveal careful observation of how environment and habit affect rest. Insomnia had many names and explanations. Worry could prevent sleep. Grief could keep the mind moving. Fever, pain, hunger, indigestion, and breathing difficulty could break the night. Some medical writers recognized that fear of not sleeping made sleep less likely, a problem familiar to anyone who has watched the dark while calculating the few hours remaining before morning. Treatment depended on cause. Physicians might adjust diet, bathing, exercise, room conditions, or emotional stimulation. Herbal preparations existed, including plants with genuine sedative effects. Poppy, lettuce, mandrake, henbane, and other substances appear in medical writing. Some could ease suffering. Some could also poison, confuse, or kill. The difference depended on preparation, dose, health, and knowledge. The romantic idea of a wise medieval sleeper drinking a harmless cup of garden herbs ignores how dangerous the pharmacological world could be. Ordinary people used household remedies and local healers as well as learned physicians. A warm drink, mild ale, scented cloth, prayer, massage, or a soothing story might be easier to obtain than expensive medicine. Remedies traveled through families, monasteries, markets, and manuscripts. Advice could be sensible, useless, or harmful, sometimes within the same collection. Wine and ale influenced sleep, though not in a simple way. Alcohol could make a tired person drowsy. It could also fragment sleep, worsen breathing, increase urination, provoke thirst, and produce an unpleasant morning. Medieval moralists had no sleep laboratory, but they knew that drunkenness disturbed judgment and bodily order. Physicians recommended particular wines for particular conditions, usually within a culture that valued moderation in theory and did not always practice it in life. Food mattered. A heavy supper could produce discomfort or vivid dreams. Hunger could wake the body. Monastic fasting changed sleep schedules and energy. Seasonal shortages made rest lighter. The person who went to bed after sufficient bread, beans, fish, cheese, or pottage experienced a different night from the person whose household had begun rationing grain. Air mattered too. Medieval writers believed corrupted air caused disease in ways modern germ theory does not accept, but smoke and ventilation genuinely affected breathing. An open hearth filled rooms with particles. Lamps consumed oxygen and produced fumes. Damp encouraged mold. Crowded rooms became warm and stale. A sleeper with asthma, infection, or heart disease could struggle in conditions no one knew how to measure. The claim that medieval people slept soundly because they lacked electric light therefore misses most of the story. They lacked electric light, but they also lacked insulated walls, modern heating, antibiotics, effective pain relief, quiet machinery, and control over many sources of danger. Darkness encouraged rest. Hard labor encouraged exhaustion. Yet cold, illness, smoke, insects, noise, and responsibility could interrupt sleep repeatedly. Pests deserve a place in the story, but not the entire bed. Fleas, lice, bedbugs, and other insects were common. They affected rich and poor, though wealth bought more options for cleaning, replacing, airing, and isolating bedding. People combed hair, washed clothing, brushed textiles, changed fillings, used herbs, exposed items to sun, and employed servants to perform laborious grooming. They did not always succeed. The myth that medieval Europeans never bathed helps exaggerate every bedroom into an insect colony. Bathing practices changed across centuries and regions. Public bathhouses existed in many towns. Rivers, tubs, basins, cloths, and steam were used. Religious and medical attitudes toward bathing were complex, not universally hostile. Laundry remained demanding because water, fuel, soap, labor, and drying conditions all cost time. Difficulty produced irregular cleanliness, not complete indifference. A bite in the night could wake you. So could the person beside you, scratching. Straw and wood offered hiding places. Curtains offered warmth, but also shelter for pests. Strong-smelling plants were used against insects, with mixed effectiveness. Smoke repelled some creatures while irritating lungs. Bedding maintenance became a constant contest rather than a final victory. Now the fire has fallen low. Your feet are warmer beneath wool. The room breathes around you. You begin to understand that medieval sleep was not one strange ritual. It was an ongoing negotiation among biology, labor, belief, household economy, and the material limits of the bed. Then come the dreams. Medieval people did not agree that every dream was a message from God, the devil, or the future. Learned Christian thought inherited a long debate about where dreams came from and whether they deserved trust. Biblical stories gave dreams enormous authority. Joseph interpreted dreams. Kings received warnings. Saints experienced visions. Yet theologians also warned that dreams could arise from the body, memory, food, emotion, or deception. Augustine's writings shaped early medieval discussions. He distinguished kinds of vision and treated the imagination as a place where true and false impressions could appear. Gregory the Great offered categories that included dreams caused by a full or empty stomach, dreams produced by thought, dreams shaped by demonic influence, and dreams that carried divine revelation. The difficulty was deciding which was which. This uncertainty encouraged caution. A person who dreamed of a saint might feel comforted, but a spiritual advisor could ask whether the dream reflected prayer, illness, fear, pride, or genuine revelation. A monk who announced a divine command every morning would not necessarily become celebrated. He might be told to practice humility and stop treating his sleep as a private news service from heaven. Dream books circulated, drawing on ancient traditions associated with writers such as Artemidorus and Macrobius. Symbols could be interpreted according to social position, context, and circumstance. Water did not mean one thing in every dream. A king dreaming of a crown and a peasant dreaming of a crown occupied different symbolic worlds. Popular interpretation existed alongside elite theology, local folklore, and personal intuition. Dream visions became a major literary form. Writers used sleep to enter allegorical landscapes where figures such as love, reason, fortune, nature, or death could speak. The dream allowed impossible encounters without claiming that they happened in ordinary waking life. It created a safe door between imagination and authority. A poet could wake at the end and leave the reader uncertain about what had been revealed. For ordinary sleepers, dreams probably ranged from forgotten fragments to terrifying experiences. Hunger, grief, fever, smoke, alcohol, pregnancy, medication, and stress all shaped the night. A person who had watched a relative die might dream of the dead. A pilgrim who spent the day hearing miracle stories might dream of a saint. A soldier expecting battle might wake with his heart racing before the alarm. Nightmares were understood through both body and spirit. Learned medicine might blame digestion, humors, or vapors rising toward the brain. Religious culture might describe demonic pressure. Folklore supplied night creatures that sat on the chest, stole breath, or immobilized the sleeper. These descriptions resemble what modern medicine calls sleep paralysis, a state in which awareness returns before the body fully regains voluntary movement. The person may feel pressure, fear, or a presence in the room. For someone without a neurological explanation, the experience could be overwhelming. You wake, you cannot move. A shape seems to stand beside the bed. Weight presses your chest. Prayer may be the only action you can imagine. When movement finally returns, the memory feels more real than an ordinary dream. The medieval interpretation was not foolish when judged from inside the experience. The sufferer genuinely saw or felt something. Culture provided the identity of the visitor. A Christian might fear a demon. Another community might name a night spirit, witch, mare, or dead person. The biology remained hidden, while the terror was immediate. Sleepwalking raised different questions. Medieval legal and theological thinkers sometimes considered acts committed without full awareness. Was a sleeping person responsible for words, movements, or sexual responses? Could sin occur without consent? The answers mattered because Christian moral thought placed intention at the center of guilt. An involuntary event during sleep was not judged exactly like a chosen waking act. Stories of sleepers walking across roofs or performing impossible feats should be treated cautiously. Chroniclers loved wonders. Folklore grows around unusual behavior. Most sleepwalking was probably less dramatic, involving sitting up, speaking, moving through familiar space, or attempting ordinary tasks while not fully awake. In a house with open fire, tools, stairs, animals, and unlocked access to the yard, even ordinary sleepwalking could be dangerous. Families used practical solutions. They watched the person, changed the sleeping position, blocked a doorway, moved dangerous objects, or woke them gently. They might also pray, consult a healer, seek medical advice, or interpret the event spiritually. Tying someone in place appears in stories and may have happened, but it should not be imagined as the universal medieval treatment. Talking in sleep attracted attention because words could seem revealing. A sleeper might speak a name, confess fear, or repeat part of a daytime argument. Listeners could treat the speech as meaningless, comic, suspicious, or prophetic, depending on what they wanted to believe. Privacy becomes especially fragile when several people share a room and one of them narrates dreams aloud. Snoring was ordinary and irritating. Medical texts connected noisy breathing with bodily obstruction or excess material. Bed partners connected it with the immediate desire to make the sound stop. No theology was required. A crowded dormitory contained the same small resentments as any modern shared sleeping space. Someone took too much blanket. Someone arrived late. Someone smelled of work. Someone kicked. Someone insisted that they did not snore, despite testimony from the entire room. Night also changed emotional scale. A worry manageable in daylight could become enormous when everyone else slept. Debt, illness, sin, marriage, inheritance, and fear of violence returned without distraction. Medieval spiritual writers knew the night could intensify temptation and despair. They prescribed prayer, recitation, confession, work, or conversation with a trusted person. The interval of waking between sleeps, when it occurred, could therefore be calm or anxious. Some people prayed, some talked, some had sex, some tended the hearth, some reviewed dreams, some simply waited to become sleepy again. The romantic version turns every household into a peaceful midnight salon. The human version includes crying infants, aching joints, arguments whispered so children would not wake, and long stretches of listening to rain. Sex belonged naturally to the shared world of bed and night. Medical and religious writers discussed timing, fertility, bodily condition, and marital obligation. Some advice suggested that intimacy after an initial period of sleep might occur when digestion had advanced and the body was rested. But texts giving advice do not prove that everyone followed it. People made love when privacy, desire, health, and household circumstances allowed. Religious calendars restricted sexual activity on certain fasts, feast preparations, or penitential days in theory. Enforcement varied. Marital life rarely aligned perfectly with clerical ideals. The bed remained a place of affection, negotiation, reproduction, conflict, illness, birth, and death. It was not only where people slept. Birth often happened near the bed or in a special lying-in space. Women gathered to support labor. After delivery, mother and infant required warmth and observation. Nights became a cycle of feeding, changing cloths, soothing, and watching for danger. Infant mortality made sleep emotionally charged. A quiet baby could be more frightening than a crying one. The sickbed transformed the household. Relatives sat nearby. Candles burned longer. Priests were called. Medicine was administered. Sleep could signal recovery or approaching death. A feverish patient who finally rested gave hope. A patient who could not be awakened produced fear. The same word, sleep, could become a gentle metaphor for death, while everyone around the bed understood the difference. Death in bed was common enough that the object carried memory. A bed could be inherited after someone died in it. Modern buyers might hesitate. Medieval households often had no reason to discard valuable bedding simply because death had occurred nearby. Textiles were cleaned, redistributed, donated, or passed to relatives. The bed continued serving the living. This intimacy between sleep and death helps explain bedtime prayer without reducing medieval people to panic. Every night resembled a small surrender. The eyes closed. Awareness disappeared. The body became vulnerable. Morning was expected, but never guaranteed. Prayer gave words to that surrender. And still, most nights ended ordinarily. The dream faded. The sleeper turned. Rain weakened. A child stopped crying. Somewhere, a rooster made an early and inaccurate announcement. The darkness began to thin, and the household returned from its many private worlds. If you leave the cottage and climb toward a castle, sleep becomes softer, warmer, and far more political. The popular image of castle life places the lord and lady alone inside an enormous chamber enclosed by stone walls and guarded by silence. In reality, a great household rarely left important people entirely alone. Servants slept nearby. Guards stood within calling distance. Children, companions, clerks, nurses, chaplains, and attendants occupied surrounding rooms or temporary pallets. The noble chamber offered more privacy than a peasant home, but it remained part of a crowded institution. A castle was not merely a residence. It was a government office, military post, warehouse, court, hotel, and symbol of authority. Guests arrived. Messengers entered at inconvenient hours. Disputes demanded decisions. Servants prepared clothing before dawn. A lord who imagined that rank would protect him from interrupted sleep had misunderstood rank. The great bed displayed power. Curtains carried expensive dyes. Coverlets showed heraldic designs. Pillows and feather mattresses announced access to land, birds, cloth, and labor. Beds traveled in some elite households because rulers and nobles moved between estates. Textiles, cushions, and portable frames could be packed with other household goods. The phrase "going to court" did not always mean entering one permanent palace. Courts moved, and sleep moved with them. The bedchamber could become a place of business. Advisors spoke with rulers before they formally entered public space. Petitions arrived. Trusted servants assisted with dressing and washing. The boundary between sleeping and governing was thin. Access to a ruler's chamber signaled intimacy and influence. Being present when the lord woke could matter politically. For noble women, the chamber served as domestic center, social space, and sometimes command post. A lady managing an estate might receive reports, dictate letters, supervise children, plan marriages, and resolve household questions from rooms arranged around her bed. During childbirth, the chamber became more enclosed. Curtains, tapestries, and shutters created warmth and privacy. Female attendants controlled access. The space could remain dim for days, not because everyone rejected fresh air, but because custom, comfort, and protection shaped the lying-in period. Royal sleep carried special risk. Assassination, rebellion, and kidnapping were not everyday events, but they were real enough to influence security. Doors were guarded. Food and drink were watched. Trusted attendants controlled access. A weapon might remain nearby. The king's bed did not need to hide an assassin between 8 feather mattresses every night for the household to take threats seriously. Rumors about rulers often entered the bedroom because the room symbolized vulnerability. A king who slept too much could be accused of laziness. One who slept too little could be praised for vigilance or blamed for unstable judgment. A queen's bed was connected to fertility and succession. Whether a royal marriage was consummated could become a matter of law and diplomacy. The most private moments of powerful people attracted public consequences. Not every noble chamber was comfortable. Stone walls held cold. Large windows lost heat even when shuttered. Fireplaces improved conditions, but created uneven warmth and smoke. Tapestries reduced drafts, yet vast rooms remained difficult to heat. A castle bedroom in winter could be richly decorated and still require layers of wool, fur, curtains, and several other bodies nearby. Summer brought different problems. Curtains trapped heat. Insects entered. A room facing afternoon sun could become oppressive. Moving to another chamber was possible for the wealthy, which was one of wealth's greatest luxuries. Comfort often meant having choices. A peasant endured the only room, a noble selected among several imperfect rooms. Servants experienced the architecture differently. Some slept on truckle beds that rolled beneath larger beds. Others used pallets in corridors, halls, kitchens, guardrooms, or shared chambers. Their location reflected duty. A chamber servant needed to wake when called. A cook rose early. A nurse stayed near a child. A guard rested in shifts. The household's smooth morning depended on many people whose sleep ended before the owners. Beds also expressed hierarchy among guests. The highest-ranking visitor might receive the best chamber. A lesser guest received a shared room. Retainers slept in the hall. Horses and servants needed accommodation. Hosting a noble entourage could strain an entire estate. The household rearranged beds, borrowed bedding, and created temporary sleeping spaces. Hospitality was measured partly by how well guests were fed and housed. Sharing a bed with someone of the same sex could express trust, friendship, rank, or simple necessity without carrying the meaning modern observers may assume. Political allies, travelers, siblings, and servants could sleep together. Medieval culture interpreted physical closeness through its own expectations. The bed was intimate, but intimacy had more than one form. The hall gradually changed through the later Middle Ages as elite architecture created more specialized rooms. Private chambers became more common among the wealthy, yet privacy developed slowly and unevenly. A person could have a separate room while still being dressed, guarded, washed, and awakened by servants. The modern idea of complete withdrawal behind a locked bedroom door would have seemed impractical for someone whose life depended on household attendance. At night, the castle settled in layers. The lord and lady disappeared behind curtains. Children and attendants occupied nearby rooms. Guards changed watch. Dogs moved in courtyards. A chaplain prepared for early prayer. The kitchen fire was managed. Somewhere below, a servant tried to sleep on a bench while people above enjoyed embroidered linen. The difference between rich and poor was not that one group slept and the other did not. It was that wealth purchased distance from cold ground, better textiles, more control over companions, and people whose own rest could be interrupted on your behalf. You lie beneath the canopy and listen. The mattress is soft. The blanket is warm. Yet the building never becomes still. Power has its own form of insomnia. Travel removes even the limited certainty of the household. Once you leave the familiar bed, every night becomes a problem to solve before darkness closes the road. A pilgrim may plan to reach a monastery, hospital, inn, or private home. A merchant may depend on known trading partners. A messenger rides until duty permits rest. A poor traveler accepts a place in a barn, porch, stable loft, or sheltered corner. Hospitality networks matter because formal inns are not equally available everywhere. Monasteries and religious hospitals often receive travelers, especially pilgrims, the sick, and the poor. Rules of hospitality could present the guest as a figure of Christ, but spiritual ideals met practical limits. A crowded guest house had finite beds, food, fuel, and patience. Guests were separated according to status, health, and gender when possible. Wealthy visitors might expect private rooms. Poor visitors might sleep in groups. An inn was a business, not a standardized institution. In a major town, a prosperous traveler could rent a chamber with a bed, lockable storage, food, and space for animals. In a village, the inn might be an enlarged household where guests joined the family and slept wherever room appeared. Bedding could be shared, so could fleas, news, jokes, and suspicion. The innkeeper had to judge people quickly. A traveler arriving after dark might be honest, desperate, drunk, ill, or dangerous. Local regulations sometimes required hosts to report strangers. Guests watched one another because theft was easy in a crowded room. Money remained tied to the body, hidden in clothing, placed under the head, or stored with a trusted host. A bundle became a pillow because a pillow that moved would wake its owner. Bed sharing among travelers followed etiquette, even when records do not preserve every rule. People considered rank, sex, familiarity, and reputation. A respectable woman did not casually enter a bed full of unknown men simply because the inn was busy. Arrangements could fail, abuse occurred, and poorer travelers had fewer choices. Yet the comic image of cheerful strangers piled together without boundaries ignores how carefully communities protected honor. Pilgrimage created enormous mixtures of people. Clergy, nobles, craftsmen, widows, servants, and beggars followed the same roads. At shrines, dormitories, and halls filled with bodies, prayer, coughing, and stories. Some pilgrims traveled for devotion. Some sought healing. Some traveled because pilgrimage provided rare permission to see the world. Sleep became part of the spiritual labor. Hard floors, early services, and crowded rooms demonstrated endurance. Ships offered even less control. A passenger might sleep beneath a cloak on deck, in a cramped space below, or among cargo depending on vessel and status. Timber creaked constantly. Water struck the hull. Sailors worked watches while others rested. Storms turned every sleeping body into loose weight. Seasickness made sleep impossible. Fire remained dangerous even on water because cooking and light required flame aboard a structure made of wood, rope, pitch, and cloth. Sailors learned to sleep when opportunity appeared. A long, uninterrupted night was a luxury. Watch systems divided crews. The resting sailor accepted noise that would alarm someone on land. Ropes tightened. Sails shifted. Men shouted. The important sound was the one that changed. Soldiers lived by the same principle. On campaign, armies established camps, occupied buildings, or slept in fields. A knight did not normally curl into bed wearing a complete suit of plate armor. Full plate developed late in the medieval period, required careful fitting, and was exhausting to wear. Mail and padded garments could remain on during an emergency, but routine sleep in full battle equipment would reduce the soldier's ability to fight the next day. The myth survives because danger sometimes forced compromise. During a siege, raid, or threatened night attack, soldiers might rest partially armed. A padded jacket offered warmth and protection. Mail could remain close. Weapons stayed within reach. Boots might not come off. Men slept in shifts while others watched. The result was not heroic comfort. It was poor sleep accepted because surprise was worse. Armor itself needed care. Damp encouraged rust. Leather dried or cracked. A soldier who slept in wet mail without reason created problems for his skin and equipment. Experienced fighters valued readiness, but readiness included maintaining the body. A person too stiff to stand was not prepared. Military camps produced their own night sounds. Horses moved. Guards challenged approaching figures. Fires burned under control. Men gambled, prayed, repaired equipment, or complained about food. Commanders feared disorder as much as enemy attack. Regulations limited wandering, noise, and drink, though soldiers have always tested the distance between regulation and enforcement. Sieges made sleep especially strange. Defenders listened for mining beneath walls, ladders against stone, or tools at gates. Attackers feared sorties. Artillery and shouting could continue after dark. Civilians sheltered in cellars, churches, or inner buildings. The body slept in short periods because exhaustion eventually overruled fear. A shield might serve as emergency shelter or support, but the neat claim that knights routinely used shields as pillows is more literary than practical. A shield was curved, hard, valuable, and fitted with straps. A rolled cloak, saddle, bag, or bundle offered a better headrest. People improvised, but they preferred not to wake with the edge of military equipment pressed into the neck. Hunting parties, shepherds, charcoal burners, foresters, and seasonal laborers also slept outdoors. Their knowledge of ground, wind, shelter, and fire mattered. A hollow protected from breeze could be warmer than an exposed hill. Dry vegetation insulated. A cloak trapped heat. Companions slept close. Dogs warned of danger. Rain changed every plan. Outdoor sleep connected people to the sky. Without a roof, moonlight became bright enough to wake. Frost formed on cloth. Dew-soaked bedding. Stars offered direction and a sense of time. The night was beautiful, but beauty did not keep anyone warm. When travelers finally returned home, the familiar mattress carried emotional weight. It smelled right. It creaked in the expected places. The people beside it were known. Medieval comfort was not measured only by softness. It was measured by recognition. The safest bed was the one whose noises you already understood. Age changed the night. An infant did not understand bells, curfews, or household economy. It slept in short periods, woke hungry, cried, and forced adults to reorganize everything around its needs. Cradles appear in medieval art and records, but not every child had one. Babies slept in baskets, small beds, beside caregivers, or within the family bed. Each arrangement balanced warmth, feeding, supervision, space, and risk. Medieval parents knew that infants could die during sleep. They did not understand sudden infant death in modern terms, but they recognized suffocation, overlaying, weakness, fever, and failure to wake. Church and legal records sometimes investigated cases in which a baby died in a shared bed. Such records reveal both tragedy and anxiety. Adults might face suspicion or penance even when the death was accidental. This does not prove that parents were careless. It shows how poverty and custom placed families in dangerous situations. A mother exhausted from labor and feeding could fall asleep with an infant beside her. A cold household might have no safer, warm place. A cradle could separate the baby but required space and materials. Every option carried conditions that modern safety advice assumes households can control. Children did not necessarily keep adult schedules. Young children fell asleep during evening work, woke frightened, needed the chamber pot, or climbed into another bed after a nightmare. Older children shared with siblings, servants, apprentices, or relatives. Sleeping arrangements taught hierarchy. The eldest might receive the better position. The youngest stayed near an adult. A child wetting the bed created labor for whoever washed and dried textiles. Bedwetting appears in medical and household concerns because it affected valuable bedding. Treatments ranged from dietary adjustments and timing of drinks to herbs, prayers, and magical practices. Shame could accompany it, especially as a child grew older. Compassion and frustration probably existed in the same household, just as they do now. Adolescents occupied an uncertain space. They worked like adults in many settings, but remained under household authority. Apprentices often lived with a master, sleeping in workshops, lofts, or shared rooms. The contract governed work, food, discipline, and sometimes bedding. A responsible master was expected to provide basic care. An abusive one could make night as difficult as day. Servants' sleep followed the people they served. A maid attending a lady might stay within hearing distance. A nurse slept near a child. Kitchen workers rose before the household. Stable workers answered animal emergencies. The phrase "sleeping servant" can be misleading because availability was part of the job. A bell, call, or knock could end rest at any moment. Women carried a disproportionate share of interrupted sleep through pregnancy, nursing, caregiving, textile work, food preparation, and responsibility for the sick. This did not mean men slept peacefully every night. Men stood watch, traveled, guarded animals, fought, and performed heavy labor. But many forms of invisible night work belonged to women and left fewer written traces because chroniclers rarely considered them remarkable. Menstrual discomfort, pregnancy, miscarriage, childbirth, and menopause-shaped sleep. Learned medicine described female bodies through theories modern science rejects, yet women also possessed practical knowledge shared through families and midwives. They adjusted position, warmth, food, bedding, and support. The person who knew how to arrange cushions for a pregnant woman contributed more to sleep than a physician writing general advice in Latin. After birth, the mother's official lying-in period could provide rest among families able to support it. Female relatives and neighbors brought food, managed the house, and cared for older children. For poor women, recovery could be brief because work did not disappear. The ideal of protected rest depended on resources. Old age produced another kind of fragmented night. Joint pain, breathing problems, weak bladder, grief, and lighter sleep affected elderly people. Medieval writers sometimes observed that the old slept differently from the young. A respected grandparent might receive a place close to the fire. A poor elderly person without family could sleep in a hospital, religious house, rented corner, or wherever charity allowed. Hospitals were not modern medical centers. Many served the poor, elderly pilgrims, or chronically ill through food, shelter, prayer, and basic nursing. Beds could be arranged in halls where patients saw an altar or heard services. Some patients shared beds. Others received separate places depending on disease, institution, and funding. Rest was part of care, but crowded wards brought noise and infection. Disability changed sleeping arrangements according to need and support. A person unable to climb stairs required a ground-level place. Someone with seizures might sleep near others. A blind person navigated familiar rooms well, but faced danger in unfamiliar inns. A person with chronic pain needed cushions the household might not own. Medieval communities could show tenderness, neglect, charity, exploitation, or all of them at different moments. Status affected whose discomfort mattered. When a noble could not sleep, a physician wrote a regimen. When a laborer could not sleep, mourning still brought work. The poor had insomnia without leaving elegant records about it. Their evidence appears indirectly through accidents, court testimony, illness, and the physical remains of hard lives. Work schedules also differed by occupation. Bakers and fish sellers rose early. Millers responded to water and demand. Shepherds woke when animals required attention. Midwives could be called at any hour. Clergy left beds for dying parishioners. Watchmen slept during parts of the day. Prostitutes, tavern workers, thieves, and entertainers often worked after respectable households closed doors. There was no medieval society entirely asleep at midnight. Markets prepared before dawn. Fires were lit. Bread entered ovens. Goods arrived at gates. A visitor walking through a town in the hour before sunrise would encounter workers whose day had already begun and revelers whose night had not ended. The categories of early and late depended on the job. Seasonal labor changed the balance again. Shearing, harvest, fishing runs, vintages, and military campaigns created periods of intense work. People accumulated exhaustion, then slept longer when opportunity returned. Religious feasts interrupted normal routines with vigils, services, food, drink, visitors, and celebration. A festival could keep a community awake much later than usual. Sunday and holy days reduced some forms of labor, though animals and meals still required attention. Rest itself carried moral and social meaning. To stop work was not laziness when the calendar commanded worship. Yet elites sometimes accused the poor of wasting feast days in drink or sleep, while elites enjoyed their own forms of leisure under more flattering names. The medieval night therefore reveals inequality through interruption. Some people woke because they chose prayer. Some woke because a baby needed milk. Some woke because a master called. Some woke because a guard shouted. Some woke because pain had returned. A few turned over in feather beds, while someone else added wood to their fire. When morning came, all of them were expected to continue. So far, the night has been viewed mostly through Latin Christian Europe. The medieval world was much larger. In Constantinople, court officials, artisans, monks, sailors, and laborers lived beneath a different political tradition, while inheriting much of the same Greek medical learning. Byzantine physicians discussed sleep through the language of humors, digestion, temperament, and disease. Urban life around churches, palaces, markets, and harbors produced its own pattern of bells, lamps, guards, and crowded housing. In the Islamic world, medical scholars examined sleep with remarkable sophistication. Arabic writers translated, criticized, and expanded Greek medical traditions. Avicenna's canon of medicine treated sleep and wakefulness as essential parts of health. Physicians considered how food, exercise, emotion, air, age, and disease-shaped rest. Sleep was not empty time. It was a bodily state with causes, benefits, and dangers. Hospitals in major Islamic cities could provide organized wards, trained staff, pharmacies, and medical teaching beyond what was available in many Western European communities. Patients were observed. Diet and sleep formed part of treatment. Wealthy people received care at home as well. Medical knowledge moved across languages and borders through scholars, merchants, conquest, diplomacy, and translation. The bedroom in Damascus, Cairo, Cordoba, or Baghdad did not look like one universal Islamic room. Climate and architecture mattered. Courtyards, shutters, screens, flat roofs, fountains, and ventilation allowed households to manage heat differently from northern cottages. During hot seasons, people might sleep in cooler parts of the house, on roofs, or in open courtyards when safety and custom allowed. Daytime rest could help compensate for nights shaped by heat and early prayer. The call to prayer structured time in Muslim communities, including the prayer before sunrise. Religious obligation could interrupt or frame sleep without requiring monastic withdrawal. Night prayer held special spiritual value for some believers, while ordinary households balanced devotion with work and family. Jewish communities across medieval Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East also organized nights through religious practice, household custom, local environment, and the laws of surrounding societies. Bedtime prayers, such as the recitation of the Shema, placed sleep within trust in God. Sabbath changed the rhythm of work and rest from Friday evening into Saturday. Lamps, food preparation, family gathering, and restrictions on labor created a weekly night distinct from ordinary evenings. Jewish medical practitioners participated in the shared, learned culture of the Mediterranean. They read and wrote in Hebrew, Arabic, Latin, and regional languages. Advice about sleep moved among traditions more freely than later stories of isolated civilizations suggest. A remedy described in an Arabic medical text might influence a Latin translation used by a Christian physician. A Jewish doctor could serve a Muslim ruler or Christian prince. Knowledge traveled even when communities faced prejudice and legal restriction. Northern Europe offered yet another night. Winter darkness stretched for long hours. Summer light lingered. Scandinavian households organized sleep around climate, farming, fishing, and communal halls. Saga literature contains dreams, warnings, ghosts, and sleepers awakened by violence, but literary drama cannot be treated as a nightly census. Archaeology shows beds, benches, textiles, and domestic spaces adapted to cold. People clustered around heat because heat mattered more than modern expectations of private rooms. In Ireland and Wales, Legal texts, poetry, saints' lives, and household traditions reveal complex arrangements of hospitality and rank. Where a person slept could indicate status. The best bed or place near the fire belonged to someone important. A guest's treatment carried honor. Insulting a visitor through poor accommodation could damage reputation. Across Eastern Europe and the Baltic, housing forms ranged from semi-subterranean structures to timber homes and urban chambers. Stoves could create more even warmth than open hearths in some regions. Sleeping platforms near heat used vertical space efficiently. The idea that medieval Europe universally shivered beside an open fire overlooks technologies adapted to local winters. In southern Italy, Iberia, and Mediterranean islands, heat, insects, and ventilation shaped sleep as strongly as cold. Thick walls protected against daytime sun. Shutters managed air and privacy. Courtyards allowed evening life to continue outdoors. People might go to bed later during hot periods or rest during midday. The season shifted social time. This variation matters because many claims about medieval sleep begin with a small set of English or French sources, then expand across a continent and 1,000 years. A phrase in an early modern English court record becomes a rule for a Byzantine nun. A later illustration of a nightcap becomes the uniform of a Carolingian farmer. A wealthy household inventory becomes proof of peasant luxury, or a poor rural excavation becomes proof that every noble slept in misery. Good history resists that expansion. It asks, who produced the evidence, where, when, and for what purpose? Household inventories tell us what people owned, but usually survive for families worth recording. Monastic rules tell us what authorities wanted, not always what monks did. Medical texts reveal learned ideals, not every local practice. Art shows beds and sleepers, but artists used symbolism and convention. Literature preserves language such as first sleep, yet fictional characters do not represent statistical surveys. Archaeology provides rooms, bed fittings, textiles, insects, animal remains, soot, and wear patterns, but soft bedding rarely survives. Court records capture nights when something went wrong. A theft, assault, fire, infant death, illicit meeting, or unexplained noise brings sleepers into the record. Peaceful nights disappear because no one needed to document them. This creates a strange imbalance. History remembers the bedroom when it becomes a crime scene, sick room, death chamber, royal stage, or setting for a miracle. The millions of nights when people simply slept remain silent. To rebuild them, historians combine fragments. A law about curfew suggests people moved at night. A will listing blankets reveals value. A monastery timetable reveals interrupted rest. A medical discussion of insomnia proves that sleeplessness had recognizable forms. A poem mentioning first sleep suggests a familiar phrase. A flea preserved in an archaeological lair confirms a problem no comic exaggeration needed to invent. The result is not one answer. It is a map of possibilities. A medieval person could sleep in a curtained feather bed, on a wool mattress, on a bench, on straw, aboard a ship, beside a furnace, in a monastic dormitory, beneath a hedge, inside a hospital, near animals, beside strangers, or alone in a guarded chamber. They could sleep in one long interval, two broad intervals, several short stretches, or almost not at all. The human body was the same body you carry tonight. The environment around it was different, and culture taught that body what to expect from darkness. Most nights were ordinary. Crisis made them memorable. War disturbed sleep before an army ever reached the door. Rumors traveled faster than reliable news. A village heard that soldiers were nearby and began moving grain, animals, tools, and children. Families slept lightly because departure might come before dawn. Roads filled with people carrying what they could. The familiar bed remained behind. sometimes forever. Armies did not need to fight a battle to destroy rest. Foraging parties took food. Horses trampled fields. Soldiers occupied houses and barns. Billeting forced strangers into domestic space. A household that usually shared one room among relatives now shared it with armed men, whose behavior depended on discipline, command, hunger, and opportunity. Castles and walled towns prepared watches. Gates closed earlier. Guards doubled. Bells signaled danger. Civilians slept in clothing or kept bundles ready. A siege transformed every sound into a possible attack. The scrape beneath a wall might be a miner. The crack of timber might be a gate. Silence could be more frightening than noise because it allowed imagination to work. Famine altered sleep more quietly. Hunger does not always permit deep rest. The body becomes cold. Thoughts circle food. Children wake. Adults calculate what remains. Grain hidden for seed becomes tempting. Livestock disappear from the yard because they have been sold, slaughtered, stolen, or already eaten. The normal household sounds grow fewer. Medieval famine was not simply a bad harvest. It could result from rain, drought, war, plant disease, transport failure, prices, taxation, and unequal access. Wealthy households bought food longer. Poor households reduced meals, substituted inferior ingredients, sold possessions, migrated, begged, or entered service. Bedding itself could be sold. The object meant to preserve warmth became money for bread. Disease brought another kind of night watch. During epidemics, communities heard bells for the dead with exhausting frequency. Families cared for patients at home because formal medical care was limited. Sleepers shared air, bedding, and space with the sick. Caregivers washed cloths, carried water, prepared drinks, and waited. The Black Death in the middle of the 14th century did not create one uniform experience. Some communities were devastated, others suffered less. People interpreted plague through religion, medicine, environment, and rumor. They prayed, fled, organized processions, wrote wills, hired caregivers, or simply continued necessary work. Sleep during plague could become impossible through fever or fear. A healthy person wondered whether a swollen gland or headache had begun. A caregiver listened to breathing. A priest moved between houses. Gravediggers worked beyond normal hours. The dead were not always carried through streets on theatrical carts, despite later imagery, but mortality became impossible to ignore. Nightmares followed mass death. Chronicles and religious writings describe visions, omens, and fear. Survivors grieved family members who had vanished within days. A bed once shared by several people could become suddenly empty. Silence, usually desired, became evidence of loss. Fire created the fastest emergency. A shout in the night brought people into streets, carrying buckets, hooks, ladders, and whatever could help. Roofs were pulled down to create breaks. Goods were thrown from windows. Bells sounded. In tightly built towns, a household could lose home, shop, stock, documents, clothing, and bed before sunrise. Fire regulations reveal how seriously communities treated sleeping danger. Hearths were inspected. Certain trades were restricted. Watchmen looked for flame. Water supplies were kept ready where possible. Yet enforcement depended on human attention, and human attention weakens at night. Floods, storms, and earthquakes also reached the bed. Rivers rose while people slept. Coastal storms destroyed boats and houses. Roofs failed. Lightning struck churches and barns. A person who had no weather forecast learned from wind, clouds, animal behavior, and experience. Sometimes experience gave warning. Sometimes the night changed too quickly. Crime was feared more often than it occurred. Darkness protected thieves, but it also protected lovers, smugglers, servants escaping abuse, and people conducting business outside official hours. Authorities described night as morally dangerous, partly because darkness limited control. Regulations against carrying weapons, disguising faces, or wandering after curfew attempted to make people visible to power. Night watchmen were therefore both protectors and irritants. They patrolled, called hours, challenged strangers, and raised alarm. Their presence reassured honest residents, at least when the watch was awake, sober, and not accepting payment to overlook something interesting. The bed offered limited protection from violence inside the household. Domestic abuse did not stop because doors closed. Servants, wives, children, and dependents could be most vulnerable in private spaces. Court records sometimes bring these nights into view through testimony from neighbors who heard cries through walls. The crowded nature of housing could expose violence, but witnesses did not always intervene. For enslaved people in parts of the medieval world, sleep remained controlled by owners. Domestic slaves might sleep near duties. Agricultural laborers slept in barracks, huts, or household spaces. Captives taken in war could be transported under guard. The freedom to choose when, where, and beside whom to sleep was itself a form of power. Prison sleep made that power especially clear. Medieval prisons varied from castle chambers used for elite captives to dark urban cells holding debtors and accused criminals. Wealthy prisoners could purchase food, bedding, light, and comfort. Poor prisoners slept on floors, straw, or shared pallets amid cold, vermin, illness, and noise. Jailers could restrict sleep through chains, crowding, or deliberate disturbance. Punishment sometimes used wakefulness. Guards prevented rest. Public exposure created cold and fear. Religious penitence voluntarily reduced sleep through vigils. The same bodily deprivation could be praised as devotion when chosen and condemned as cruelty when imposed, though the body experienced fatigue either way. Not all unusual nights were tragic. Weddings continued late. Feasts filled halls. Religious vigils kept communities awake with candles, chanting, food, and conversation. Midsummer nights, saints' festivals, and local celebrations altered normal schedules. Young people found opportunities to meet. Musicians worked. Ale flowed. Authorities complained. The word medieval should not erase pleasure. People stayed awake because laughter was worth tomorrow's fatigue. They told stories until the fire failed. They danced. They played games. They watched for dawn on pilgrimage. They slept outdoors during seasonal gatherings. The night could be dangerous, sacred, exhausting, and joyful within the same week. Then, ordinary rhythm returned. Repairs were made. Curfew sounded. The household counted its members. Bedding was spread again. Crisis did not eliminate sleep. It made sleep one more act of endurance. Light changed the night long before electricity. A candle seems simple until you must produce or purchase one. Beeswax candles burned cleanly and pleasantly, but wax was valuable. Churches and wealthy households consumed large quantities because bright, steady light expressed devotion and status. Tallow candles were cheaper and smokier. Oil lamps depended on local fuel. Rushlights used the pith of rushes dipped in fat, creating modest light for households that could not waste expensive candles. Every source required work. Bees had to be kept, wax collected, animals rendered, rushes gathered and prepared, oil pressed or purchased, wicks made. A modern switch hides an entire energy system. Medieval flame displayed it. Light extended useful time, but it also changed social hierarchy. A rich scholar could read after sunset, while a poor laborer conserved fuel. A monastery could illuminate worship because estates and donations supported it. A merchant kept accounts beside a lamp because the expected profit justified the cost. A child in a cottage listened to a story because reading tiny script in weak light was difficult. Eye strain was recognized even without modern optics. Scribes positioned desks near windows. Work followed daylight when possible. Aging scholars complained about sight. Spectacles appeared in Europe during the later 13th century and gradually improved some kinds of near vision. Their existence did not suddenly turn midnight into study time. Glass remained costly, lighting weak, and fire risky. Town authorities understood that more light did not automatically mean more safety. A lamp revealed the person carrying it while leaving surrounding darkness intact. Torches created smoke and glare. Night travelers sometimes hired servants with lights. Wealth appeared as the ability to move after dark, accompanied and visible. Public lighting remained limited through most of the medieval period. People used lanterns and household lights rather than streets illuminated continuously. Moonlight mattered. Calendars and plans could take lunar brightness into account. A full moon made a journey easier. A moonless night made familiar streets uncertain. Timekeeping also changed. Early medieval communities relied heavily on sun, prayer, and local signals. Water clocks, candles, sand glasses, and observation offered approximate measures in certain settings. Monasteries needed systems to wake for offices, but these systems were maintained by people. Someone watched stars, measured a burning candle, or stayed awake until the correct interval. Mechanical clocks began transforming European towns in the later Middle Ages. Tower clocks struck hours loudly enough to organize public life. They did not immediately make time precise for everyone. Early clocks drifted and required adjustment. Their hours could be unequal in older systems or increasingly standardized as technology spread. Still, the clock introduced a stronger sense that night could be divided, counted, and regulated. For workers, measured time could become a form of control. Bells announced the start and end of labor. Urban ordinances defined when markets opened, gates closed, or taverns stopped serving. The household's natural relationship with sunset increasingly shared authority with civic time. Yet no clock could force sleep. It could only announce that sleep was expected or that waking was required. This returns us to segmented sleep. The debate matters because it reveals how easily a compelling historical idea can become a universal biological story. Evidence for first and second sleep is substantial in some pre-industrial European sources, particularly from later centuries. People used the terms casually, which suggests listeners understood them. Medical, literary, legal, and personal texts mention waking between sleeps. The pattern makes sense under long periods of darkness, especially in winter. Modern experiments have shown that extended darkness can encourage 2 sleep episodes in some people, but several cautions remain. Evidence does not appear equally across every century, region, or class. A reference to first sleep does not tell us how long it lasted, how often the pattern occurred, or whether the speaker followed it every night. The absence of a phrase does not prove continuous sleep, while the presence of a phrase does not prove universal division. Some historians have argued that later records are being projected backward too confidently. Studies of early modern court testimony have found many people active or asleep at times that resist a simple 2-block model. Work, sociability, crime, caregiving, and individual preference created varied nights. The most responsible picture is therefore plural. Biphasic sleep was likely familiar to many pre-modern Europeans and may have been common in certain places and seasons. It was not a law of nature obeyed identically by every medieval person. Human sleep is adaptable. Give people longer darkness, fewer fixed morning obligations, and different cultural expectations, and some will sleep in more than one period. Give them exhausting labor, illness, noise, or a crowded inn, and the pattern changes. The famous midnight watch may have been useful when it occurred. People prayed, talked, reflected on dreams, checked animals, performed small tasks, or shared intimacy, but they did not necessarily rise for a formal, scheduled intermission. Many probably remained in bed, awake but resting. Fuel was precious. Winter floors were cold. The idea of cheerfully chopping wood at midnight may describe some nights, not a national hobby. Artificial light did not single-handedly destroy an ancient, perfect sleep pattern. Urbanization, industrial work, school schedules, clocks, policing, commerce, changing domestic privacy, and new cultural ideals all influenced sleep over centuries. Gas and electric light accelerated change, but history rarely turns on one switch. The modern ideal of 8 uninterrupted hours is itself a cultural goal rather than a universal human experience. Some people sleep well in one block. Others wake naturally and return to sleep. Parents, shift workers, caregivers, older adults, and people with illness live outside the ideal. The danger comes when a historical claim is used as medical advice without considering individual health. Waking at night does not automatically mean something is wrong. It also does not automatically mean you have recovered a pure medieval rhythm. Persistent insomnia, breathing problems, pain, anxiety, or dangerous fatigue deserve modern care, not a costume and a symbolic goat. History can reduce panic without replacing medicine. It shows that expectations shape how people experience waking. A medieval person who expected a quiet interval might not interpret it as failure. A modern person watching the clock may become anxious, making return to sleep harder. The difference is not that medieval bodies were wiser, it is that their stories about night were different. As public clocks strike and lamps fade, the household still makes its own decision. Someone sleeps, someone wakes, someone waits. The night refuses to become one simple schedule. The body beneath the blanket still followed biology. No medieval physician could see directly. Light entering the eyes helped set daily rhythm. Darkness encouraged the release of signals associated with sleep. Temperature fell. Muscles relaxed. Hunger, illness, fear, and recent activity changed the process. Medieval people described these effects through humors, spirits, natural heat, and the condition of the brain. Their explanations differed from modern neuroscience, but many observations were accurate because the body made the evidence repeat every night. Winter altered more than bedtime. Long darkness could encourage longer rest, more waking within the night, or more time lying down without actual sleep. Cold raised the cost of leaving bed. Reduced daylight affected mood and activity. Food availability changed. Indoor smoke increased. Respiratory illness spread in crowded rooms. Summer shortened darkness, extended labor, and brought heat. A person might sleep later in the evening after work and wake early with light. Open windows or doors improved air but admitted insects, noise, and risk. Roof spaces became hot. Outdoor or courtyard sleeping became attractive in suitable climates. The body adapted, but adaptation did not guarantee enough rest. People differed by temperament in medieval theory and by physiology in reality. Some fell asleep easily, some were light sleepers, some naturally preferred later hours, though social life gave them limited freedom to express it. A young person might remain awake after elders slept. An older person might wake before the household. A night watchman lived against the dominant rhythm and paid for it with daytime fatigue. Modern language describes chronotypes, circadian phase, sleep pressure, and sleep disorders. Medieval language spoke of hot, cold, dry, moist, melancholy, choler, and bodily spirits. Both systems tried to explain why one person slept while another stared into darkness. Breathing disorders certainly existed. Enlarged tissues, facial structure, obesity among some elites, alcohol, infection, and age could produce loud snoring and interrupted breathing. No one diagnosed obstructive sleep apnea. Bed partners observed gasping, pauses, restless sleep, morning headache, or daytime drowsiness. Advice might focus on posture, weight, diet, air, or clearing bodily obstruction. Some changes may have helped accidentally. Others did nothing. Restless legs, parasomnias, narcolepsy, epilepsy, chronic pain, and trauma also existed without modern names. A person who collapsed unexpectedly might be described through medical, religious, or moral categories depending on the witness. Someone who shouted during dreams could frighten a crowded room. Someone unable to remain awake during the day might be called lazy despite genuine illness. Mental distress affected sleep deeply. Medieval writers discussed anguish, grief, fear, sorrow, and the sleeplessness they caused. Melancholy could refer to a broad cluster of emotional and bodily states, not simply modern depression. Religious writers described acedia, despair, temptation, and spiritual weariness. Legal records preserve people kept awake by debt, conflict, or threat. A person traumatized by battle, assault, famine, or plague might relive events at night. There was no single medieval diagnosis corresponding to post-traumatic stress disorder, but absence of a label did not mean absence of symptoms. Nightmares, vigilance, withdrawal, anger, and disturbed sleep followed human violence long before modern psychiatry. Communities responded with whatever systems they possessed. Family comfort, confession, pilgrimage, prayer, music, storytelling, medical treatment, work, alcohol, herbs, charity, punishment, or exclusion could all appear. Some responses helped. Some worsened suffering. Most depended on whether the distressed person had people willing to remain beside the bed. Sound had bodily effects too. Repeated familiar noise can fade from attention, but sudden sound triggers alarm. Medieval sleepers became accustomed to bells, animals, and household movement without gaining supernatural immunity to noise. The brain still evaluated change. A new cry, broken latch, or unusual silence woke people because survival favored detection. Touch mattered in shared beds. Another person's warmth reduced cold stress. Their movement also caused waking. An infant's small change in breathing could alert a caregiver. A sleeping partner could recognize fever through heat. A dog could wake the room before a stranger reached the door. Communal sleep created disturbance and monitoring at the same time. Smell functioned as warning. Smoke meant fire. Spoiled food, illness, waste, and damp carried information even when explanations were incomplete. People did not enjoy foul air simply because their environment contained more of it. They opened shutters, burned pleasant materials, cleaned rooms, moved bedding, and sought fresh air when circumstances allowed. The body also knew the bed through habit. A familiar sleeping place becomes associated with rest. Medieval travelers complained about strange beds because unfamiliar sound, smell, texture, and companions kept the mind alert. The same traveler returning home could sleep despite conditions a modern visitor would find impossible. This is an important correction to the idea that people in the past were tougher in every biological sense. They were not born immune to cold, noise, parasites, grief, or fatigue. They learned expectations. They developed skills. They endured because alternatives were limited. Endurance is not the same as comfort. Poor sleep had consequences. A tired worker made mistakes with blades, animals, ovens, carts, and heights. A drowsy monk missed words. A guard failed to notice movement. A parent lost patience. A ruler made decisions while ill. Medieval people may not have calculated reaction time, but they understood that exhaustion weakened judgment. Proverbs and moral writing often praised early rising, yet excessive wakefulness could also be criticized. Laziness and oversleeping carried moral suspicion. especially when work waited. At the same time, denying necessary rest could be foolish. The ideal person was disciplined, not destroyed. The balance was difficult because sleep produced nothing visible. Bread, cloth, walls, and prayers could be counted. Sleep disappeared the moment it was completed. Its value appeared only through the body able to work again. That truth connected every class: the king beneath silk, the nun beneath wool, the sailor beneath a cloak, and the child beneath a borrowed blanket. All entered the same vulnerable state. Rank could improve the room. It could not eliminate the need. Return now to the winter cottage where the night began. The fire is almost hidden beneath ash. Every person in the room has found a position that can be tolerated. The blanket is not perfectly clean, but it is warm. The mattress shifts when someone turns. You have stopped noticing the ordinary smells. Your breathing has matched the slower rhythm around you. For a while, you sleep. Perhaps this is first sleep. Perhaps it is simply sleep before the next interruption. No one in the room needs to decide. You wake because the fire has changed. The light is lower, and cold has entered around the edges of the blanket. At first, you do not know the hour. There is no glowing number beside the bed. You listen. The dog has not moved. The animals sound calm. Wind presses gently against the wall. Rain has stopped. Someone beside you is awake, though neither of you speaks immediately. This quiet interval is the part of medieval night most often romanticized. Modern imagination fills it with peaceful prayer, thoughtful conversation, and a return to natural rhythm. Those things may happen. You may whisper familiar words, check the fire, or remember a dream, but you may also be thirsty. Your hip may hurt. The child may need the pot. A mouse may have discovered something worth chewing. You rise carefully because standing in darkness is a practical art. You know where the chest ends, where the tool lies, and which floorboard shifts. The room that felt simple during daylight has become a landscape remembered through feet and hands. A little fuel is added to the fire, not enough to waste, just enough to preserve embers until morning. Light touches the faces around you, then withdraws. For a moment, the household exists outside ordinary time. The work has not begun. Sleep has not fully returned. The public world of bells, markets, masters, rent, and obligation is absent. This may be why waking at night could carry spiritual or emotional power. The person beside you is not performing a social role. They are simply awake. A quiet conversation begins. It concerns no grand event. Grain, weather, a relative's cough, the roof, a debt, a child who will soon need new shoes. Medieval life was built from such calculations. History records kings, wars, and councils. Night carried the private planning that allowed households to survive them. The conversation ends. You lie down again. This second descent may come easily because no one has declared the waking a disaster. There is no pressure to rescue a perfect 8-hour block. There is only darkness remaining before dawn. Yet even this should not be turned into a lesson that the medieval world had solved: sleep. The person beside you may remain awake through worry. Another may wake repeatedly with fever. The mother may feed the baby again. The old man near the wall may not find a painless position. A servant in the castle may already be working. A monk may soon hear the signal for vigils. A watchman in town is trying not to close his eyes. There is no golden age of rest behind you. There are only human beings adapting to the nights their societies created. The myths are attractive because they are simple. Everyone slept twice. Everyone shared one bed. Everyone wore a pointed cap. Everyone lay beside livestock. Everyone prayed against demons. Everyone was covered in fleas. Everyone woke at midnight for romance. Everyone slept sitting up. Everyone could rest deeply because no one owned a phone. Real history refuses the word everyone. Some people slept twice, some slept once, some woke many times, some slept with family, travelers, servants, or animals nearby. Some had private chambers, some slept alone because they were powerful, isolated, widowed, sick, on guard, or devoted to solitude. Some beds contained straw, others held wool, feathers, hair, chaff, cushions, linen, silk, fur, and wealth, enough to support the people who maintained them. Some people slept in underclothes, some naked beneath sheets, some in daytime garments, some in religious habits, and some in protective clothing because danger was close. Some prayed from fear, some prayed from trust, some were too exhausted to finish the words. Some dreams became literature, others disappeared before breakfast. Some monks embraced the night office, others fought sleep through every psalm. Some travelers shared beds with strangers, others paid for chambers or slept outside. Some animals warmed the building, others remained in separate stalls. The cat slept wherever it had already decided. What united these lives was not weirdness. It was the effort to create rest without complete control over light, temperature, sound, health, safety, or privacy. Modern sleep culture often treats the ideal night as a product that can be purchased. The correct mattress, pillow, temperature, routine, supplement, sound, and device will supposedly produce perfect rest. Medieval history offers no secret formula, but it does offer perspective. Comfort is material. Warmth, safety, space, and freedom from pain matter. The poor did not fail to sleep well because they lacked discipline. Their environments imposed burdens. Sleep is social. Infants, partners, relatives, neighbors, workers, and institutions shape the night. A person does not sleep outside the world. Expectations matter. Waking can feel frightening when it is interpreted as failure. It can feel ordinary when the culture allows a pause. But expectation cannot cure every disorder or erase exhaustion. The body is adaptable, not invincible. People can become used to bells, smoke, shared rooms, hard bedding, and irregular schedules. That does not mean those conditions carry no cost. Rest has always been unequal. Some people sleep because others remain awake. Outside, the eastern sky begins to pale. The first birds do not sing all at once. One begins, then another answers. The dog raises its head. Someone shifts and recognizes that the night is ending. The household wakes in stages. There is no alarm ringing beside every bed, but morning arrives with many signals. Light enters around the shutter. The fire needs rebuilding. Animals expect food. A bell carries over the fields. The body remembers duty before the mind has fully returned. Bedding is folded or pushed aside. Pallets may be cleared to create working space. Clothing is adjusted. Shoes are found. Someone complains about the cold. Someone complains about someone else's snoring. The accused person denies everything. Breakfast will be simple. Work will begin. The night will vanish from conversation unless something important happened within it. No one records that you slept, woke, spoke quietly, and slept again. That is why the ordinary night is difficult to find in history. It left few documents, but it left consequences. Rested hands shaped wood and stone. Tired hands made mistakes. Night prayers became poems. Dreams became visions. Shared beds created families, rumors, conflicts, and comfort. Monastic schedules preserved traditions. Watchmen protected towns. Caregivers kept children and patients alive. Servants prepared the morning before. Masters opened their eyes. Sleep did not pause medieval history. It helped produce it. As you step outside, the village looks less strange than it did in darkness. Smoke begins rising again. Frost or dew covers the ground. The road returns. People emerge from doors carrying buckets, tools, baskets, and yesterday's unfinished concerns. You realize that you could survive one medieval night. It would not be comfortable, and your modern body would object loudly to the mattress, smoke, cold, and company. But the night would not be an incomprehensible ritual. You would recognize the small human actions inside it. Someone pulls a blanket over a child. Someone listens for danger. Someone worries about tomorrow. Someone whispers to a person they love. Someone wakes and wonders why sleep has left. Someone dreams of a life beyond the room. The materials change. The beliefs change. The clock changes. The need does not. Tonight, when you return to a bed designed for your body, inside a room whose light and temperature you can control, the greatest difference may not be that you sleep in one block or two. It may be that you possess choices medieval people spent entire lives trying to create. You can close a door. You can change the bedding. You can seek medical care. You can decide whether the room is quiet or filled with sound. You can wake in darkness without fearing that the fire has gone out and winter has entered the house. Those choices are historically extraordinary. And still, when the light disappears and the room becomes quiet, you enter the same uncertain country they did. Awareness loosens. Time breaks apart. The body becomes vulnerable. Dreams arrive without permission. Morning remains a promise rather than a fact. The medieval sleeper would understand that part immediately. So let the old myths fade with the fire. Do not picture a continent of identical people obeying a bizarre bedtime schedule. Picture millions of different households, each building a small shelter against darkness. Picture straw and feathers, halls and cells, ships and castles, crowded inns and solitary chambers. Picture prayers, arguments, insects, laughter, illness, bells, and the long patience of those waiting for dawn. Then allow the room to grow still. The watch may come, or it may not. Either way, morning will find you. And when you hear a clock in the distance tonight, remember what that sound would have meant before clocks became private objects. It belonged to the whole community. It told the baker to prepare, the watchman to call the hour, the monk to rise, the traveler to measure the darkness remaining, and the household to decide whether the fire could last until dawn. Your own clock may produce anxiety because it turns sleeplessness into arithmetic. 4 hours remain, then 3, then 2. The medieval sleeper usually lacked that exact countdown. This did not make worry disappear, but it changed its shape. Time was heard, estimated, prayed through, and watched in the movement of flame or sky. Perhaps that is the final difference worth carrying from the past. Medieval people did not own the night, but neither did they expect to. Darkness belonged partly to weather, animals, neighbors, bells, God, danger, dreams, and the unpredictable body. Their control was limited, so their routines included interruption. Modern life offers greater control and then quietly demands perfection from it. A room can be darkened, warmed, cooled, locked, and silenced. Yet the mind may remain awake. History cannot solve that contradiction. It can only remind you that sleep has never been a moral test. A restless night does not make you weak. A long sleep does not make you lazy by itself. Rest is a biological need shaped by circumstances, and circumstances have never been distributed fairly. The household around the medieval fire knew this without expressing it in modern language. The sick were given space when space existed. The tired child was carried. The guard was relieved. The old person received another covering. People failed one another often, but they also understood that no one could remain awake forever. So allow the village to disappear now. Let the bells fade. Let the watchman turn the corner and the final embers settle beneath ash. Somewhere in the dark, A family has stopped speaking. A monk has returned from prayer. A sailor has yielded the watch to another. A mother has placed the sleeping child down carefully. A traveler has found a position between strangers and decided it is safe enough. None of them knows what history will call their century. They only know that the night is long, the body is tired, and morning work will come. That is enough reason to sleep.